All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Read the Right Thing. I'm your host, Eric. So the book I'm reviewing today is Paddy by T.J. English. So T.J. English is an American author and journalist who covers the American underworld. He is also a former New York City cab driver. His books, The Westies, Paddy and Where the Bodies Were Buried, make up his trilogy on the Irish mob in America. Look up his website, tjenglish.com, for a lot of cool stuff if you're interested in learning more about him. There's some cool things on there, like he has a blog and all the links to his journalism. He's also a lover of Latin jazz music. He's even curating a series of shows around Latin jazz music at a jazz club in New York City. So the synopsis of Paddy Whacked. This is the only book of the trilogy that I've read. This book, it charts the saga of the Irish mob in America, from the mid-19th century all the way to present day. Recently, the idea of the Italian mobster has surpassed in popularity the Irish mobster. You know, from The Sopranos, The Godfather, lots of shows, they're mostly based around Italian-American mobsters. But the Irish mob in America has a much longer history and heritage. Now, this book, it covers a large span of time, nearly 2 centuries of Irish-American gangsters. It covers early characters like King Mike McDonald, Big Bill Dwyer, and then even to more recently like the Kennedy clan and the famous South Boston gangster Whitey Bulger. T.J. English, he combines great storytelling with really well-researched facts. I learned a lot, like how the mob was entangled with the police, political parties, sports like boxing, and the government. The book is filled with great gangster anecdotes and its fair share of violence. You'll learn about the history of the Irish-American gangster in New York, New Orleans, Boston, Kansas City, and Chicago. It's like a history lesson for the underworld. Now, one thing I dislike, there are lots of great stories, but I did find it kind of repetitive at times. Almost like I was reading the same story, just set in a different city and with a new person. However, I did enjoy this book, probably because I'm a big fan of gangsters. I love The Sopranos. I love movies like The Irishman. I love Goodfellas. Gangsters are kind of like the modern cowboys. You know, we like to see independent, strong people who do things their own way. If you're interested in the Irish mob, then I think this is a must-read for the full, grand perspective of its story. Then you can kind of pick and choose which stories you find interesting, which people or stories or cities you find interesting. For example, if you want to learn more about Whitey Bulger, there are probably other books that you can read. He even has an index and sources that would be a good starting point. Or if you want to learn more about the Kennedys, then there are other books too that would give you more details. But this book is a great overview of the entire picture of the Irish mob from its beginnings to present day. So if you like Goodfellas, Boardwalk Empire, Black Mass, or The Irishman, then I think you'll like this book. This part is from the introduction. Who would have guessed that in the early years of the 21st century, in an era of rampant jihadism and global paranoia, the highest-ranking organized crime figure on the FBI's 10 most wanted list was neither a mafia don, nor a Latin American narcotrafficante, nor a Russian mafia, but rather an old-style Irish-American mob boss from around the way. During the years of his reign, James Whitey Bulger, formerly the kingpin of South Boston, was like a character out of an old Cagney movie. Tough but sentimental, kind to his mother, politically connected, and a ruthless sociopath who murdered at least 19 people. Bulger created a criminal organization based in Southie that ruled the roost for over 20 years, from the early 1970s until 1995, when Bulger was tipped off that the feds were coming to get him and went on the lam. The age of Bulger transpired during a time when most U.S. citizens probably thought the Irish-American gangster no longer existed outside of black and white Warner Brothers movies from the 1930s. Bulger not only existed, but he also thrived, making millions of dollars annually through racketeering, killing people at will, and getting away with it through expert manipulation of the system. He eluded capture and prosecution in a manner that would have made a mafia boss like John Gotti weep with envy. So I love his writing style. You know, he's straight to the point with facts, but he also makes it entertaining. This is from chapter 1. John Morrissey was a young ruffian, a teenage Irish punk with no job, no money, and few possessions other than the clothes on his back. The year was 1849, and Morrissey had just arrived in New York City from the upstate town of Troy, where he had been raised after moving from Ireland with his parents at the age of 3. In Troy, Morrissey developed a reputation as a brawler and a troublemaker. He'd been indicted for burglary, assault, and assault with intent to kill, served a 60-day stint in the county jail, and was under constant harassment from local authorities. They said 18-year-old Morrissey was a gangster, but the young man knew in his heart that his ambitions were too great for that two-horse town. And so, possessing a restless energy that could not be contained in the placid, confined roads of small-town America, he set out for the great metropolis 160 miles to the south, where pilgrims, immigrants, and refugees were presently arriving in droves. Morrissey knew exactly where he needed to go, the Empire Club, a gambling parlor and political clubhouse that was famous throughout the state. Located on Park Row in Lower Manhattan, the club was the home base of Captain Isaiah Reinders, legendary sporting man, gambling impresario, and political fixer for the Democratic Party. Reinders was the employer of hundreds of political operatives, gambling club workers, saloon keepers, and gangsters. His organization was at the heart of a political machine that made the great city hum. Morrissey, hungry, hard-headed, and propelled by the desires of youth, was determined to harness the power of Reinders' organization to raise himself out of the ghetto and make his mark on the world. So you could tell that TJ English has really done his research. You know, he's combed through lots of different books, documents, and news stories to really compile a picture of the Irish American gangster. So that's my review of Paddy. I hope you liked it. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button. If you want to see more book reviews, hit the subscribe button. Have you read Paddy, or what other gangster books do you like? Leave that in the comments.